people read ahead in Joshua to where we're going today? I'm not expecting you to. Okay, so I typically do. I'm usually a week or two out. And I was just like, I was getting no inspiration on Joshua. And I'm like, Father, what do you want me to preach on this? What do you want me to do? And that led me, by a very convoluted route, which doesn't matter, to Proverbs chapter 4. Proverbs 4. Which they're all good, but Proverbs 4, verse 5. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all thy getting, get understanding. It goes on, but I kind of messed up. I was going to ask y'all, hey, what's the principal thing? And then just see where we went with that. And then we were going to read this. So, all right, do over. Stop the film. I'm kidding. But wisdom is the principal thing. And if you get wisdom, everything goes well. So then it becomes, well, how do we get wisdom? Because look, it says here, there's so much here, but get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth, forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. So we want to be preserved. Love her, and she shall, it says in King James, keep thee, that's protect you. So if you have wisdom, you're protected by the wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom with all thy understanding. Exalt her, and she shall promote you, and so on. Let's go to James. We haven't been to James for a while. I think we're going to chapter 1. Yep. James chapter 1, verse 5. All right, so this wisdom is important. It sounds cool. How do we get wisdom? Well, you go to college, Pastor Joe, and that will make you a dumb liberal. James chapter 1. How do we get wisdom? It's okay, I had to look for it too. I'm like, James, come on. Haven't been there for a while. Verse 5, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of Elohim, that gives to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, doesn't withhold it, and it shall be given him. So if you want wisdom, pray for wisdom. Say, Father, make me wise. Give me wisdom. But there's a catch in the way you pray. Verse 6, but let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavers is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of Yahweh. If you don't pray with full conviction that what you're praying is going to be granted to you, you're like a wave tossed back and forth in the ocean. And then here's the verse we all know, verse 7. Is it verse 7? No, verse 8. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Now see, people kind of misquote that verse, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, and apply it to other things. But it's talking about praying when you don't really think that the prayer is going to be answered. If you're double-minded, if you're like a wave on the ocean, you don't know which way to go with this, just pray hard. Quite frankly, a lot of my prayers are, Father, thy will be done. I'm praying for your will in this matter. And then I usually add a caveat, if it be your will, Father, do these things, please. But for wisdom, pray for wisdom and you'll get it. Now this is going to sound weird. Maybe not to y'all, but maybe to some people on YouTube. About 2 years ago, I was into these verses, personally, just in my personal study. And I'm like, I think I'm a pretty smart guy. I have experiences and I've been educated. But I prayed for wisdom for like 2 weeks, like every day. I'm praying for wisdom. I never mentioned it. And my YouTube and Patreon channels, people started commenting how wise I was. And I didn't mention that, you pray kind of in secret for those things, right? You don't announce to everybody what you're doing. And I was like, wow, that's kind of scary. I mean, it's cool, it's neat, but so I'm telling you, pray for wisdom, because it's the principal thing. And when the world's going crazy, to have wisdom is a combat multiplier. How many chapters in Proverbs are there?
31.
31. Who wrote most of Proverbs? Solomon. How wise was Solomon?
The wisest man.
The wisest man, right? Not counting Yeshua, but the wisest man was Solomon. And so he wrote Proverbs. There's 31 of them. A great way to start your day in the morning with your coffee, I do it, is by reading the proverb of the day. It's easy. It's quick. It's not like reading a whole chapter in a regular book. I mean, it's pretty fast, but there's usually, I don't know, 4 to 5, 6 really meaty, pithy things in there that if you read them in the morning, it kind of stays in the back of your head and you think about them all day. And it'll help make you wiser. So what's the date today? The 6th. Let's go to Proverbs 6. Which happens to be, I had a pastor one time say you're not supposed to have a favorite book of the Bible. You're not supposed to have a favorite verse of the Bible. I guess because they're all good or something like that. I have favorite verses and favorite books of the Bible. So what does he know? I like Proverbs 6. I quote part of it a lot. My son, I'll read it, we'll come back. If thou be a surety for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared with the words of thy mouth, thou art taken with the words of thy mouth. Do this now, my son, and deliver thyself when thou art come into the hand of thy friend. Go, humble thyself, and make sure of thy friend. Give not sleep to thine eyes, nor slumber to thine eyelids. Deliver thyself as a roe from the hand of the hunter, and as a bird from the hand of the fowler. What are they talking about here when it says, be not a surety, don't be a surety for your friend, or strike a hand with strangers? Anybody know? What? It's like co-signing. It's saying, I am going to be responsible for this person's debts. Unlike, because this was written for Israelites back in the day, it is like co-signing. Do you all know that co-signing alone is dumb? It's like basic finances 101, and especially for those of us who are older adults and now have kids that are becoming an adult, don't co-sign their loans. Don't do it. But it's bigger than that. In this context, you're kind of saying, I'm responsible for all future debts of this person. When you do that, you take that person off the hook. You take them off of having to exercise personal responsibility. Can you imagine going to the mafia and saying, hey, loan this guy as much money, give him whatever he's want, I'm good for it. And then walking away. You're not walking far because they know where you live. And then he buys the normal things you thought he was going to buy, but then because it's not really his money, he starts buying more and more, and it gets more and more in debt to the mafia. Guess where the mafia is coming for that money? They're coming to you. Now this is the wisest man in the world saying, don't do that. Because we're humans, and we're flawed, and we're not all that great. But can you think of a circumstance where somebody basically did that? Because I can think it too, and they just hit me.
In the Bible?
Yes. The Good Samaritan. Remember the Good Samaritan? He said, hey, he fixed the guy up, he took him to a hotel basically, and then he told the innkeeper, hey, take care of him, and if he owes anything else when I come back, I'll pay it. He went against this, didn't he? Against this wisdom. And then think about Yeshua. He's taken on all of our sins. The sins you haven't committed yet, he's already taken on to forgive those sins. What should we do then? Sin that grace may abound? God forbid. No, we shouldn't. But he's done that. He's done that. The Good Samaritan did that. The whole point of the Good Samaritan, which we're not going there in today's sermon, he's a type of Yeshua. But generally speaking, in earthly terms, and this is wisdom, don't do that for people. Because the second you say, I got all your bills covered, you're letting them off the hook, and they're not going to exercise personal responsibility. It'll show itself in one form or another with most people. Let me see. So if you do that, if you find yourself in that position, the advice is go to that person that you said, yeah, I got care of all your debts, and get out of that. Get out of that situation. Hey, dude, I'm sorry. I thought I could cover it, but it says humble yourself. I thought I could cover that, but I can't. And according to this proverb here, give not sleep to your eyes, nor slumber to your eyelids. Go get yourself free of this commitment, whatever you got to do, because you don't want to be responsible like that for somebody else. To me, this whole thing right here is about personal responsibility. Not only do we supposed to have it ourselves, we're supposed to demand it of others. You are responsible for you. We're here to help. We're here to help a brother out, help a sister out, to help lift you up. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for you. At the end of the day, we as individuals are standing before Yeshua in judgment. Nobody's got a surety for us at that point. He's done that, and you're standing in front of him. Right? Does that make sense? So there's the wisdom. And I think the immediate thing is, as Maria said, don't be co-signing any loans. Just, if you're going to do that, instead of co-signing the loan, take out the loan and then loan that money to that person under whatever terms you want. But if it's an Israelite, what about loans?
No interest.
We don't charge interest to Israelites. We don't do that. We do it to the goy. The goyim. No, but we can't charge interest from a brother or sister. But you're not going to get a loan without paying interest.
Not anymore.
So, yeah. So that's an interesting thing. You need $10,000. You want me to co-sign a loan for you for $10,000 because I got it, I'll pay it off, but they just won't lend it to me unless you co-sign it. Okay, how long are you going to pay this off in? Oh, 10 years. Okay, so $10,000, if I borrow $10,000 and they charge me 3% interest, that's going to actually be this much money. I'm thinking off the top of my head here. Let's just say it's $15,700 by the time it's all paid back. I think I'm lending you $15,700, and I'm not charging interest. That's
Right.
what I got to pay.
Right.
That's how I'm looking at it. Because that's what I owe on it. I don't know. Somebody could prove me wrong. Best not to borrow money at all, if you can avoid it. All right, here we go. Proverbs 6:6. I love this. Go to the ant, thou sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provides her meat in the summer and gathers her food in the harvest. How long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travels, and thy want as an armed man. When I was in the army, if somebody called you a slug, that was like one of the worst things they could call you, was a slug. And very few people would call another person to their face a slug, but they would talk about somebody and say, that dude's a slug. And a slug, in those contexts, because sluggard, that's what it comes from basically, it's just like a lazy, doesn't do anything, doesn't pull their weight kind of person. And everything in the military is teamwork. Everything's teamwork. And if you're not pulling your weight, we're back to self-responsibility again. If you're not pulling your weight, you're bringing the whole team down. And so those people were slugs, and you don't want to be a slug, right? Well, right here, and I love tough love. I know only about half of you watch my videos, but I'm a pretty straightforward shooting guy. And it's like, the person who isn't considering the ant twice in this little bit of scripture is called a sluggard. Does it say a different word in like a different Bible? Go to the ant.
Lazy worker.
You lazy one, you slug. It's like, that's really harsh kind of words, right? But let's consider the ant. Because if we consider her ways and then take them on, we're what?
Wise.
Wise. We're getting wisdom here. And so we're getting wisdom just by reading this and thinking about this. And it says, she has no guide, no overseer or ruler. And we're about to read about all the work this ant does. Well, who's making this ant do the work?
Her responsibility inside.
Personal responsibility, self-discipline. The work's got to get done, and nobody's yelling at me to do it. You know, there's a lot of people that when they retire or when they leave a work situation where they're told what to do every day by a boss, they just can't handle it, having all this free time. I don't think that affects most of us, because most of us here are kind of doing our own thing. Except for you, Cody, because you're just lazy and don't do anything all day. I'm kidding. But it takes self-motivation, self-discipline. Consider the ant. The ant doesn't have anybody yelling at it, telling it to go do all this work. And let's look at the work that the ant does. Provides her food in the summertime and gathers her food in the harvest. And so that's work. How many people have started their vegetable garden? I have. It's work. And it doesn't really end until the harvest if you do it right. If you garden like your life depends on it, and right now none of our lives depend on it. But if we're gardening like our life depends on it, and next February we want to be eating something, it's a lot of work. It's getting right now is getting everything ready, preparing it, maybe starting some seeds or things like that, getting the ground ready. Then we plant it all. That takes time to get that in. And then all summer long, what do we have to do?
Weed it.
Weed and bugs and water sometimes, and just, you have to tend it. I just read a really good book by General Stanley McChrystal, who, amongst other things, was like the head commando in Iraq, the head general in charge of all the high-speed guys. And the book's called Team of Teams, and he talks about, here's Delta Force running around, the finest force of its kind ever in the world, and Al-Qaeda is running circles around them. And they're like, we have better men, they're smarter, we have the best equipment in the world, and they're running circles around us. And they had to redo the whole way they thought, and acted on things. And he talks about how in the past, military leaders were thought of as, and I don't remember the example he uses, but they're like type A personalities, and I'm in charge, and here's what we're going to do. You're going to do this. You move out and do that. You do that. And that's a good leader, and they lead by example and all that. He's like, now this is like a high-speed general. He's done amazing things in his career. He's like, I've come to look at leadership more as a gardener, where you tend the garden and you create the conditions for your people to be able to achieve what they need to achieve. You're not growing the plant. The plant is growing, but you have to prepare the soil and tend it and take care of those things. And he goes into this in great detail. But it got me thinking about the concept of leadership and being a gardener. And there's a lot of work in being a gardener, but it's a different kind of mentality. So the ant does that so that she can have food at the end of the year. And then, as if that wasn't enough, verse 9, how long are you going to sleep, you sluggard? How long are you going to sit on it? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. I think I'll just roll back over and go to sleep. How many people like to sleep?
On Shabbat.
I like to sleep. I like a good sleep. I rarely get one because I have dogs that wake up and deal with things, and I've got to deal with them. But for me, a really good sleep is 10 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Man, I feel like $1,000,000. But have you ever known anybody that sleeps like 15 hours a day? Like on a regular basis? That's not healthy. It's not healthy to sleep that long. And a lot of people who sleep like that are not dealing with something that they need to deal with. And they're basically hiding from it. In this case, hiding from work that needs to be done. It's like, oh man, I gotta go weed the garden, but I think I'll just stay right here. Because now I don't have to go weed the garden, right? But again, it says, how long will you sleep, you sluggard? When are you gonna get up? When will you rise out of your sleep? When are you gonna wake up? Anybody ever heard the phrase, wake up, smell the coffee?
Mm-hmm.
Wake up, understand what's going on, understand the operational environment. I talk to people every day on my video channels that are still asleep. They're like out there living their life in the world, going along, la 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 la. We'll vote for Trump in 2024 and everything's gonna be fine. And it's like, when are you gonna wake up? It's time to get busy. It's time to get things done because winter's coming. Remember when that was popular? What show was that? Winter's coming. Game of Thrones. Okay, so that was in that. But if you do that, if you sleep like that, if you roll back over to go to sleep, oh, and I have a note here in my Bible. Proverbs 26:14, as the door turns upon its hinges, so does the slothful upon his bed. That's Proverbs 26:14. So as the door turns back and forth, so does a lazy person on the bed. It's a pretty good technique when you wake up in the morning to put your feet on the floor, stand up, and get busy. If you sleep too much, anybody ever feel a sleep hangover?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Oh, yes.
You can get a sleep hangover where it's just like you're foggy all day. Now, I conquer that with this right here, but a good technique is to get up and get going so you don't be like a door and go back and forth. If you do that, your poverty's going to come. Does anybody have a different phrase than as one that travels?
Like a prowler?
Yeah, it's like a highwayman. And a highwayman were like people that you'd be going down the one road in the county and they jump out of the bushes and rob everything. It's like surprising destruction comes. And then the last one is, or thy want, you're going to want for things because you don't work and you don't earn it. As an armed man, it's like an intruder coming in. All of a sudden, surprise, we're here to take everything you have. And so the exhortation here is to exercise self-discipline and to get things done. Do the things, right? It sounds like us. It sounds like what we already believe, but unfortunately there's too many people out there that don't. All right. Let's look at verse 12. I'll just read it, we'll come back. A naughty person, a wicked man, walks with a froward mouth. He winks with his eyes. He speaks with his feet. He teaches with his fingers. Frowardness is in his heart. He devises mischief continually. He sows discord. Therefore shall his calamity come suddenly. Suddenly shall he be broken without remedy. Who has a different word for naughty person? Worthless. That is what it means. It's just King James English. It means a worthless person, a sluggard. Do you see how it's just kind of all staying with, it looks like little chunks of wisdom, but it's all kind of like the same thing. Here's this worthless person, a wicked man. He walks with I have froward. Does anybody have a different word?
Shuffles his feet.
Shuffles her feet. What kind of mouth?
Perverse.
Froward is what it says. It's perverse. But it's not the way we think of perverse. We think of perverse in terms of morality, right? You know, he's got a perverse mouth, so he drops the F-bomb every other word. I just saw somebody complaining about somebody who did that. Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan drops the F-bomb every other sentence. Okay, he needs to get a better vocabulary. But that's not what that means when it says a perverse mouth. Perverse is things that aren't true, is basically what it is. Things that are just not true, you can't rely on them, that's not trustworthy. That's really what that means. But so here's this worthless person, this wicked man. He walks with this, deceitful words. And then he winks with his eyes, he speaks with his feet, he teaches with his fingers. What that's supposed to mean is everything about this person betrays his character. You can see it in the way he acts, and the way he moves, and the way he looks at things when he looks at things and stuff like that. And it's like a caricature of this worthless person. So let's read about this worthless person. Frowardness is in his heart. Does anybody have a different word? Deceitfulness is a better word for that. He has a deceitful heart. He's always trying to deceive. Quite frankly, has anybody known anybody that's always trying to get over and change the rules and break the rules and do that kind of thing? And that's a deceitful spirit, is what that is. If Alex says, all right, PJ, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the sky for 2 minutes. That's all you got to do. And I'm like, okay, so you mean like this, right? Okay, no, dude, all the way up. Well, no, well, he said, and then I got to go tell you guys to do it. And I'm like, well, he said that we could just lift our hands a little bit. It's like, dude, you're being deceitful. All right, you know what he meant. You know what you're supposed to do. Don't be a slug. Don't be somebody who's laying up lazy in bed. Get out there and lift your arms up for 2 minutes. And it's really hard, right? That's what we were just talking about. So this is this person. Frowardness is in his heart. He devises mischief continually. He sows discord. Have you ever known anybody who goes around and goes, Melissa, psst, 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 did you hear this about Cody? Psst, 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 psst. And then, Cody, did you hear this about Alex? Psst, 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 psst. And they try to get the brethren fighting each other. You know anybody like that, Alex?
Oh, yeah.
Sure don't.
Sows deceitfulness, tries to get discord. We're going to find out about people who sow discord. And generally speaking, this is talking about fellow Israelites here.
Yeah.
Are there lazy Israelites? You betcha.
Yeah.
There are. Are there deceitful Israelites? Yeah, there are. And so this person is going around sowing discord, which means they're getting people to not like each other, to not get along, to create problems. Kate and I have seen that a lot over the years here at Shofar Mountain. We call them drama queens. And Sister Kate's message is, save the drama for your mama. We don't do drama. Don't like drama. What? Go deal with that. Don't be sowing discord. Don't be creating a big mess. Therefore, their calamity comes suddenly, and suddenly he is broken without remedy. It's a bad thing for somebody who sows discord and acts this way. 16, another thought process. These 6 things does Yahweh hate. Yep, 7 are an abomination unto him. So how many are we going to read? 6 or 7? 7. I'll just read it, we'll come back. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaks lies, and he that sows discord among brethren. Put your finger here, because we're talking about hands, feet, eyes, tongue, that kind of thing. Go to Romans chapter 6, verse 13. Romans 6. Come on. There we go. Romans 6:13. Neither yield ye your members as instruments of unrighteousness unto sin. It's a cherry-picked verse. You can go back and read the whole thing later. But you know how and Paul talks about how the body consists of many members, and you've got the head and the toe and the nose, and they're all very important. Brother Chris just did a thing on following Yeshua not that long ago where he was talking about, well, you're the big toe. You're just the big toe in this body. And then he goes into how important our big toe is to walk and balance and that kind of thing. And then here we are, don't yield your members. It's talking about the parts of your body. It could also be talking about the parts of this body, right? The body of believers. Don't let them yield to sin. That's all I wanted you to see. Back here in Proverbs, a proud look. What's a proud look?
Haughtiness.
Haughtiness, right? I am all that. They think they're something, don't stink, right? I mean, these are human conditions, right? It's like, I'm super bad, I'm all that, and you're not. It's basically what that is. A proud look is not just like, it's kind of looking down their nose at you, right? And that gets more to the what's wrong with a proud look. Well, the Father hates that. They're an abomination A lying tongue. Don't lie. Let your yeas be yea and your nays be nay. Instead of lying, don't say anything at all. I think it's like a crime to lie to a police officer in the commission of duty. Is that true? Is it against the law to lie to a police officer?
Not necessarily.
Oh,
Sometimes.
well, I thought it was. Maybe in some states it's not because they're more freedom loving. I don't know. I thought it was. Like, they can charge people with lying to the FBI. They charged Flynn with that. That was like one of the big things they put him in jail for, or wanted to, or whatever, was that he lied to the FBI when they were talking to him. It's better just to say nothing than it is to lie. You don't have to lie. Just don't tell. Don't let those things come across your mouth. The Father hates a liar. Hands that shed innocent blood. It's kind of interesting the way that's worded. Huh?
Murderers.
Murderers. It doesn't say hands that shed blood. It says hands that shed innocent blood. Don't kill people who don't need killing. Abortion. And people say, oh, God loves this country and we're a Christian nation and, blah, he's going to save us. Pray to the Father to save this nation. I'm like, why should he save anything? Do you know how many babies we kill a year in this country? Oh, and by the way, most of them are black. Most abortions are black. And blacks, African Americans, make up like 13% of the population, but most of the abortions are black people. And I remember years ago, maybe 10 years ago, when Hispanics overtook blacks. Like, Hispanics are about 15, 17% of the population now. They used to be underneath the number of blacks, but they took over more. And the blacks were like, whoa, how did that happen? It's like, well, paint with a broad brush here. Most Hispanics in America are Catholic. They don't believe in abortion. Therefore, they have larger families. That's how they got to be more. And the blacks are killing, and so are whites, and so are Asians, and so are everybody else. But blacks kill a lot of babies, have their babies killed. I'm not going there. I got another thing to say about abortion doctors, but I'll just let that go, because the Father hates hands that shed innocent blood. They're an abomination to him. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, and a heart that devises wicked imaginations. Does anybody else have a different verse there? Different wording?
Wicked schemes.
Wicked schemes. That's what it is. We're coming up with evil plans. If we just go in there, we can kill this guy, shed innocent blood. We can take all his stuff, and we can do that. It doesn't say they're doing these things. It says they're devising wicked. You shouldn't think of wicked things. It's like, this is bad. And so, again, going back to self-control, personal discipline, personal responsibility, you don't go there. It's like, nope, not going to do that. Not going to. And here's the thing. I guess we're going on a little tangent there too. Hatred is generally very, very bad. That's why we're supposed to forgive people. When you hate somebody, it eats you, right? It puts a dark hole
It's like murder.
in you. It is like murder. And I just used a phrase, I've heard it before, I've used it before, but not a lot, and it made Kate laugh the other day. It's like, you're letting that person live rent-free in your head. If you hate somebody, you're focused on that person, you're letting them take up what should be praising the Father or helping another brother or sister out or something like that. And so it's the same thing as devising wicked imaginations. It's like, man, I don't like that person, I'm going to get even with them, I'm going to do all these things. Don't do that. It hurts you more than them, because these are just imaginations. So it's hurting you. And it lets evil spirits in also when you do that. Feet that are swift in running to mischief. People who do bad things, and they just do it all the time, and let's go run to trouble. There's trouble, let's go do it. A false witness that speaks lies. So that's 6 right there. When we get to the false witness that speaks lies, that's 6 things. And then we see this for 7, because it says 6, yea, 7. He that sows discord among the brethren. The Father hates that. It's an abomination. He who breaks up the brethren, splits them off one from the other, gets you two fighting. I can get those two fighting. Sister Kate tells a story. She spent a semester in England, and she had a friend there, a male friend who was a sailor, and before I guess he was recently a civilian, and he would go into pubs, which like bars, and I guess they'd be really crowded up around the bar. And what he would do, he'd stand like one back from the people. He'd look and he'd see somebody not paying attention, and he'd grab his beer and chug it, and kind of giggle. Those are feet that run to mischief. Set it down, and then he would step over here and he'd tap the guy on the shoulder and he'd go, "Oi, mate, I don't know if you care, but that guy just drank your beer." And watch the fight. He loved it. It would start all the time. "Why I didn't drink that? Who are you talking?" And so he did that. But he's sowing discord among, if you'll just allow me this, the brethren. The pub brethren. Yes. The drama queens, the people who just want to start stuff. Don't do that. The Father hates that. And the 6 things before that we read about, those things sow discord among the brethren.
They actually correspond to the 10 Commandments. If you listed the 10 Commandments, these would fit right in there.
Interesting. The Father has chosen us to be his people. We're Israelites. Most of us by being grafted in Israelites, but that makes us Israel. We're in the tree of Israel. He cares about Israel. Yeshua said, "I come not but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel." He only cares about Israel. Now, he wants everybody to come into Israel. There's an opportunity there. But he only cares about Israel. And he cares about Israel so much, he doesn't want to see us messing it up. Don't sow discord among the brethren. Are there Israelites that I don't get along with? There are. Are there Israelites who don't like me? There are. But we ought not to be sowing discord among the brethren, because we're all brethren, right? We're following Yeshua. We're trying to keep the commandments of Yah. And we got to remember that, because the Father hates that. And he doesn't want to see his people fighting. Did Israel fight? Absolutely, Israel fought. But the Father didn't like that. He didn't approve of that. My son, verse 20, keep thy father's commandment and forsake not the law of thy mother. Bind them continually upon thy heart and tie them about thy neck. When thou goest, it shall lead thee. When thou sleepest, it shall keep thee. And when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee. I'll keep going. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light. Thy word is a lamp unto my life and a light unto my feet, or something like that. Words to that effect. You know the song I'm talking about, right? That's what that's from. Well, and reproofs of instruction are a way of life. So, honor thy father and mother that it will go good with you, right? So when this says, my son, and you could take that if you're a woman, my daughter, keep thy father's commandment and forsake not the law of thy mother. And your mother is a Buddhist. She's Baha'i faith or whatever. No, that's not what this is talking about. This is presupposing that your father and your mother are Israelites and they're following Yah, right? And they're doing that. And so that's what that means. Don't leave. How many people here have had teenagers or have teenagers? Not that many of us. This thing happens to teenagers. What is that called in the Amish? Rumspringa? When they let them go?
Yeah.
Their brains like just kind of between 12 and 18 just kind of go. But you raise a child up in the way he shall go, and he will not depart from it when he is old, right? But they get to this point where they're like thinking, you know, my parents are idiots, and now finally I'm on my own and I can do what I want. I mean, pretty much everybody goes through that. It's part of taking self-responsibility. I'm not under them anymore. I'm doing this. Well, this is encouraging such people. Keep your father's commandments and forsake not the law of thy mother. They're talking about Torah. That's what we're reading about here. They're talking about don't give up on Torah. Bind them to your heart. Tie them about your neck. So it's always there. So everything you do is through the lens, if you will, of Torah. And it shall lead you, and it shall keep thee or protect thee, and it shall talk with thee. And I was thinking about this. Who leads?
The man.
Huh?
The man of the house.
when it says here, it shall lead thee. So it's like, come on, follow me, right? And it's like, well, a leader. And then I was thinking, well, what kind of leader? Well, like a shepherd or a guide, like a mountain guide or something like that. A guide for life. Well, this is Torah. Torah is a guide for life, that you can follow. When you sleep, it shall keep thee. So it's a protector or a guard. We've talked about that so much, how we need each other. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody's got to be awake on security so that I can sleep, right? Or so you can sleep. I'll be up at 2 tomorrow morning or whatever. But this is what Torah does for us. It protects us. And when you awake, it shall talk with you. That's like your buddy, your friend, right? Well, the word is full of understanding and meaning, and so we read it, and we have that in Torah. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is a light, and reproofs of instruction are a way of life. Iron sharpens iron. I don't mind a brother telling me in love that I'm messing something up, because that gives me the opportunity to fix it. That's the humble spirit, not the haughty look, not the whatever. If a brother comes to you or sister and says, hey, I think we need to look at this, you should do it. You should look at it. To keep thee from the evil woman and from the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman, lust not after her beauty in thine heart, neither let her take thee with her eyelids. For by means of a whorish woman a man is brought to a piece of bread, and an adulteress will hunt for the precious life. There's actually 2 different women here. There's the strange woman, the stranger, the sultry harlot that people chase after, men. And there is the adulterous woman. Those are 2 different things. An adulterous woman is married, and she's sleeping with somebody else. A whore is a prostitute, basically. And strange forbidden fruit, right? That's what they're talking about here, strange woman. So on the one hand, that holds true for what it is, but there's a deeper understanding there, and that is religion. We constantly read in the Word, don't go whoring after Babylon. It's talking about following these strange, new, appealing, seemingly appealing-looking religions. Don't be doing that. And it says, a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread. I had to actually look this up and study this a little bit. Evidently, prostitutes back in the day, where you could obtain the services of a prostitute for about the cost of a loaf of bread. And so the analogy there is you've given away your bread, so all you have is a crumb to eat if you've gone after a prostitute. And then compare that with the next one. Whereas, you might add, the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. Does anybody have a different word than life? It's nephesh. And we talk about this in the Day of Atonement. Nephesh is mouth or throat or soul or spirit. It does mean life. It's like your life is at risk with adultery. There's a difference between adultery, where a man sleeps with a married woman, not his wife, and harlotry, where a man sleeps with a harlot. But those are 2 different things. And the one, going back to sowing discord in the brethren, is horrible. We go there here. Can a man, and then this is like, hey, don't think you can get away with this. Can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes are not burned? Can one go upon hot coals and his feet not be burned? No, play with fire, you're going to get burned. That's simple, putting that in modern terms. Don't be messing with that stuff. Don't think you can get away with this, is what this is saying. And not only are you not going to get away from it, you're going to be burned. And boy, you could take that and go into the big fire, the lake of fire. So it's the same as he that goes into his neighbor's wife. Whoever touches her shall not be innocent. Men do not despise a thief if he steals to satisfy his soul with hunger, but if he be found, he shall restore sevenfold. So here's the deal. They're actually comparing the thief here to the harlot, as opposed to the adulterous woman. Hey, you catch a thief who was stealing because he had to have something to eat. Nobody hates him for that, right? They understand it. I get it, dude. You stole so you could eat, and I understand that. However, comma, you got to pay sevenfold what you stole. Now, if the person had to steal in order to eat, they get caught. What do they have to pay back 7 times? They didn't have it to begin with. That's why they stole it. And so what would happen in Israel if you couldn't pay your debt?
You went to-
You're a slave.
You become a
Slavery.
slave.
Yeah.
Right? You're still alive. But you become a slave, indentured servant. Because if you're stealing, but nobody hates that guy. And so but it's still a pretty severe penalty, right? You went from stealing bread to being a slave. Let's go back to the ant, thou sluggard. If you'd have just worked so you could buy some bread, you wouldn't be in this condition now where you're now a slave to the person you stole from. However, let's look at this. Give all the substance of his house. 32. But whosoever, so that's one side. But whosoever commits adultery with a woman lacks understanding or heart. So he that does it destroys his own soul. Dude, you sleep with a married woman, you're toast. Literally and figuratively. You cannot do that. Here's why, amongst other things. Remember how the Father hates people who sow discord with the brethren? A wound and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away, unlike that of the thief. The thief's reproach is wiped away by paying 7 times. For jealousy is the rage of a man, therefore, this is the husband of the wife who the guy slept with. Therefore, he will not spare in the day of vengeance. That's also Yeshua will not spare. Because what's the penalty for adultery?
Death.
Death. He will not regard any ransom, neither will he rest content, though thou givest many gifts. There's no getting over that. So therefore, tying this back into the rest of it, there is discord in Israel. Now we have a real problem. It is Israel. It's going to be us against the world against us. When this thing all shakes out at the end, there's only going to be 2 sides. There's going to be no fencing. There's going to be those who keep the commandments of Yah and have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach, of Jesus Christ. And there's going to be everybody else. Those of us who get it, we don't have any business fighting each other, having discord with each other. We got enough problems out there. And that's why the Father hates us, because he cares about us and he wants us to pull through. That's the wisdom of just today's proverb. You can get that every day if you read it with your coffee or your tea in the morning. Let's pray.